The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I just want to point out that this bill does not ban arbitration. If two parties have a dispute and prefer arbitration to going to court, they can have arbitration. This bill bans forced arbitration, meaning arbitration that's entered into contracts that people have no ability to change. That's why it says pre-dispute arbitration agreements are struck by this bill, not post-dispute arbitration agreements. So this bill does not eliminate arbitration agreements if they want to. It does eliminate forced arbitration agreements that the party, usually the employee or the consumer, had no knowledge of probably and no ability to say no to. We used to call them contracts of adhesion, but we don't do that anymore. And I now yield 3 minutes to the gentlelady from Texas, a member of the Judiciary Committee, Ms. Jackson Lee.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
I thank the gentleman very much, and as well, I thank my friend and colleague, Mr. Johnson, Chairman Johnson, Chairman Nadler, Chairman Johnson, for this long overdue legislation that we voted on last year, and as well to acknowledge the forced arbitration legislation that was signed by the White House dealing with sexual assault. Now we come full circle. So let me try to reinforce, because our friends on the other side of the aisle, and I call them friends, not only have it wrong, they have it upside down. It is completely misconstrued as to what this legislation does. And if you go out on the street corner and talk to any American, they'll say, of course I want the FAIR Act. Because forced arbitration says to them that, in essence, you are obligated, you're indentured to the contract that you signed to get a job, to buy a phone, to get that big TV, and that you are not able to pursue your due process rights. Now, this is a constitutional issue. The Fifth Amendment completely indicates that you cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, however you choose your due process of law. We go on to the 14th Amendment, of course, part of the historic 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, and it indicates that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States under this Constitution, which includes a right to a trial by jury, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process again, and that you are guaranteed equal process and justice under the law. So let me factually say, though the signing of any contract or document is voluntary, often large corporations make it impossible to use their product or be employed without agreeing to a contract with a forced arbitration, making signing of the contract or document anything but voluntary, and clearly it has constitutional implications. Something that should alarm all American consumers is that, according to a study commissioned by the University of California Davis Law Review, 81 companies in the Fortune 100, including subsidiaries or relating affiliates, have used arbitration agreements in connection with consumer transactions. Now, let me be very clear. When you have a dispute, we are perfectly happy for you as the individual part of the contract to say to the corporation, I don't care about my rights. I'm going to throw myself on the mercy of arbitration. And in doing so, you may subject yourself to a limited decision, as Brian Flores was finding out. Madam Speaker, let me tell you that American economic supremacy does not stem from the contributions of modern-day oligarchs, billionaires, CEOs, or the wealthy. It comes from the middle class. It comes from those 60 million workers and countless others who put in an honest 8-hour day 5 times a week in the simple pursuit of trying to feed their families and take care of their communities. I oppose the upcoming amendment that deals in particular...
expired.
I grant the gentlelady an additional 30 seconds.
I thank the gentleman for his generosity. The upcoming amendment that talks about not excluding unions. Unions have agreements between individuals. Unions have the power through their persons they represent to vote yea or nay for that contract. So if they vote yea or nay on that contract, their eyes open on the arbitration, it is a union that will be in protecting that individual. They will not be in that process alone. In the instance of an individual and the contracts that are signed, they will be alone. But they will not be alone if the FAIR Act is passed and the Constitution is upheld. That's why I support enthusiastically the FAIR Act and oppose the amendment to be forthcoming. pass the FAIR Act because justice and the Constitution requires it. With that, Madam Speaker, I yield back. Thank you so very much.